we are going to talk about uh, a new chapter. So far, if I quickly recall, so we have covered uh, MDG introduction chapter, we covered data model, we covered process modeling, we covered UI modeling, and that was half of our agenda. Then the next chapter which we are going to start, of course, that is not search and duplicate check. Search and duplicate check we will come little later. But before that, we will talk about the workflow modeling. So these two chapters are very important chapter as far as MDG framework is concerned. That is workflow modeling and validations and derivations. Okay, and these two chapters are purely technical chapter, but the way I will explain it, I'm sure that you will able to understand this. But still, if you have any question, always welcome. We will have definitely discussions in a very detailed manner. So there definitely we will try to cover up all the question answers. So basically today I'm going to talk about workflow modeling. May not be the full complete chapter, but most of the portion we will talk about. And then next week we will also continue with this chapter, the remaining topics, and then we will continue the next one. So if I talk about that, how many chapters we have still? So we have something called workflow modeling, then validations and derivations. Then we will come back to search and duplicate check. And then finally, we have data replication and import. And then we have something called enrichment chapter, where basically we will talk about some new topics, like some case studies, some topic like Fiori, topic like consolidations and mass processing. And then we also talk about some generic issues. Then we also talk about the enterprise asset management. So basically some new topic which we will talk about. Okay. Anyway, so come to this workflow modeling chapter. So basically in this chapter, we are going to mostly to talk about the practical part rather than having separate theory and practical session. So during the practical activity, I will talk about whatever the theoretical understandings will be required. Okay. So first thing which we need to understand that what is workflow and why workflow is important as far as MDG framework is concerned. So the first thing which comes in mind, that is workflow is nothing but the business flow. So in MDG, what is happening that so far whatever we learned, that whether we are creating or changing or mark for deletion or block unblock or mass processing, whatever we are doing, that is basically we are trying to do through some work, through some MDG procedures, some MDG process, right? And uh, we have seen that in previous chapters, like we have different change requests, we have different business activities, we have different change request types, etc. So uh, in this chapter, basically what we are going to do, we are basically going to talk about how this business flow happens. Okay, so in previous chapters, what we have seen that through data model, how we can uh, bring the data into one place, how we can add the data into the data model, and in process model, we have seen that how we can create the different business activity, different change request types for material, for supplier, for create, change, mark for deletion. That means different domain and different processes. And then we also talked about in UI, like how we can bring the new field or new UI BB in the UI section. But ultimately, whatever you are doing, you have to create your master data. You have to change your master data. You have to update your master data. You have to block your master data. So that process will be done through this business flow. So now, the first question which comes in mind, that is, so 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 the first thing what the first thing what we need to understand, that how many different type of workflow we have. So basically two type of workflow. One is the single workflow, another one is the a parallel workflow. So what is single workflow? What is parallel workflow? Single workflow and parallel workflow. So the single workflow means, like, you have requester, you have verifier, and you have approver. Okay. So what is happening? So requester is creating something, then or requesting something, then the request goes to verifier, then verifier gives necessary approval, uh, and approve or reject whatever it is. Then again it goes to approve, then again approve and reject. So this way, and finally the end product will create or update or whatever it is. So when the things are happening in a sequential manner, one by one, that is something which is single workflow. Parallel workflow means that the things are happening in a parallel manner. Okay, that is something parallel workflow. Now, I'm not going to talk about parallel workflow at this moment, but because the things will be little complicated then. Okay, because parallel workflow is not a very straightforward thing. So, in this particular chapter, so this chapter, particularly workflow modeling, this chapter, we will only focus on the single workflow. And the next chapter means the validations and derivation chapter, which is a continuation chapter of a workflow. And obviously, in this chapter, we have some more topic like rule framework and different type of services, etc. So in this particular chapter, we will talk about the parallel workflow. Okay. So, so we have a two different type of workflow process. Now, so what I'm going to do, so we have different type of master data like material, supplier, customer, finance, etc., etc. So let's start with material, and we will see how we can develop one business flow. Okay. So I have prepared uh, one demonstration, but before I go to the demonstration, I explain anything. Before I want to show you the execution first. Okay. So in the execution, you will see that how the data is working or how the data proceed. So call NWBC. NWBC, we know it is a NetWeaver business client. So when you call NWBC, you will have this initial screen which will open, and these are all different type of business flow roles. So role part is part of this chapter only. So if you see, so develop different type of role concept in MDG. So basically, the role part is a part of this chapter, but we will come to little later. Okay, so we will come to this little later. So now I'm bypassing everything and I'm going to NWBC. So then we have like material governance, business partner, finance, supplier, customer, etc., etc. So let me start with first create material. Okay. So create material. So the moment I click on create material and this initial screen appear, and I need to give the change request type. So why change request type? Because uh, based on a different based on a different processes like create, change, mark for deletion. So based on a different process, we have a change request type. So I need to give a instruction to the system that which change request type I need to work with. So accordingly, the respective UI will appear for me. Okay. So like ZZ mat01. So this change request type I have maintained, which is a custom change request type, but this is related to the material master. Okay. Now you can ask me one question: why you are not using mat01? The reason is mat01 is sound like a very standard. So in real time project, they are not going to accept it. They will say no. You have to create something which is unique for particular that customer. So that's what you have to always create something like ZMAT01 or YMAT01 or whatever it is. Yes. So this is the change request type. This is the description, the priority, due date, reason, status. So these are all different items which we have. Okay, and these are all part of change request details. And this is the change request type. Now I'm going to the basic data. So we have a lot of information. Now you can say that I don't need all this information. It's fine. Already in UI chapter, we have seen that how we can remove that. By like in enhancement, we can create it and we can hide it or you can remove it. So remove means yes, you are not removing actually because you are not authorized to remove anything, but virtually you are basically uh, disappearing those fields from the customer. Okay. So anyway, so let me, so base unit of measure each. I'm selecting one material type, which is a sample material, industry sector. So let's say I'm selecting one of the sector randomly, material group. So this is the material group. Rest of the information I'm not giving. There are a lot of information. Now here, create material for test. Okay. Now let me add the classification. So, so I can search, and from here, I'm just selecting one classification. And always for material, the class type will be 001, which is always same. And then I'm going to see whether it has any characteristics. So there are a lot of characteristics. So I'm just selecting few of them. And so these two information I'm just selecting. Okay. And then click on check. So So the change request will be checked. Okay. Yes, if I want, I can add some more information like GT information, like purchase details, sales details, then distribution chain details, then plant data. So there are a lot of information, but I'm just using some sample data with the very minimum details, so where I can at least create some master data, okay, without a lot of different type of details. So the basic details I have just given, and then just check, and there is no error at all. So the one which is giving here the warning, search object connect, this is related to the search, so nothing which is related to this. So now I'm going to submit. So you can see workflow is currently being processed. So the moment I click here, the change request goes to the next level. Okay. So the next level is what? The next level is, so I can refresh. So the next level is the verifier level. Okay. Obviously, in your project, it can be named anything. It can be named like a procurement or finance or some custodian one, two, three, whatever it is. Okay, based on, because every business is different and their validations levels they call in a different manner. So not necessary that they will call like a verifier or approver. Okay. So here I have maintained this as a verifier. So that's what it is showing, that your request is gone for the verifier to approve. And verifier now will have two options. One is approve and one is reject. Okay. So other way to identify is like you can go to my change request and you can see the list of change request which you have. And you can see this is the change request which is to be validated by verifier. And you can click here and the change request will open for you. Okay. Now you can approve and reject. Now the question is like one fact is like here I as a requester submit this request. So is it possible that I can approve my own request? Logically speaking, no. It is not allowed that you can approve your own request, okay, in a real time scenario. So there are, otherwise there is no point to create different type of data validations and business flows for the different levels. Okay, so then why I'm receiving this here? The reason is here uh, I have only one user in the demo system. I have only one user, so I don't have any multiple users here. So otherwise, we could have, if I have multiple users on the same client, then I can trigger this request to the another person. Okay, so because of that reason, I here portray myself as requester, as well as a verifier, and as well as an approver. Okay, but in real time scenario, it should not be like that. Okay, if I'm the requester, then make sure that somebody else will be the approver. Okay, so then we'll have two options, which is approve and reject. Now here you can see one error which is appearing, that field property attribute y test one of entity material is missing. So that means someone has added this YA test one, this attribute in the material entity type in the data model, and added in the respective SMT mapping, but not added in the UI. So that's what it is giving you a kind of information. But however, it is showing you error message, but honestly speaking, it is not going to stop you to proceed further. So it is just an error. However, it is coming in a red color. Rather, it should come in a yellow color. Okay. But anyway, That is not going to stop you. So now I'm going to approve it. Okay. So the moment I approve as a verifier, so you can see my workflow is now process for next step. So now it is gone to the approval level. Okay, it is gone to the approval level, and again approval will have approve and reject. Again, I repeat that I'm not supposed to do in a real-time scenario. I'm not supposed to receive this approver approvals because I'm the requester. But here I have only one user in demo system. That's what I have a certain limitation. That's what I kept myself as a requester, also as a verifier, and also as an approver. Now the question is like what I can do next. So next, if I just show you uh, here, the status is now changed. So from verifier, it is now approver. So now again, uh, let's go. Okay. So now let's say I want to reject. So first case we have seen that I approved it. Now I want to reject it. Okay, then what is going to happen? So now I'm going to reject this. Okay. Now here is one thing which you need to understand, that the moment we reject, we cannot reject like this. We have to give a proper justification for the rejection. Okay. So first thing is we need to provide a note. Okay. And in this note, however, I'm just giving demo test, but actually this is not the way. In a real time scenario, you have to say like let's say for an example that requester wait a minute. Wait a minute, I'm facing some network issue. The remote desktop connection got lost. Okay. uh Requester requester uh maintained the wrong info about, let's say, material group. Please correct for this material. Okay. So this is a note, let's say one approver can provide, and then the approver can reject it. Okay. So it has been rejected now. So now the moment it has been rejected, you can see it is to be revised. So then it come back to whom? Now if you see the status to be revised, and then it come back to the requester. So let's say for an example, so you have a requester, verifier, and approver. So requester request for something, it goes to verifier approve, then it goes to approver, then approver reject, then it goes to the requester again. Okay. Now the question is why requester? Why not a verifier? Okay. Now the answer is here. The the owner of the request is the requester. Okay. So owner of the request is the requester. So because of that reason, any change that has to be uh, changed by the requester. Yes, of course we can send it to the verifier for some project. They say that no, we will not again send back to the requester because requesters are my end users. My end users are not much educated about this process, so rather I will give the responsibility to my verifiers. Okay, so verifiers are like my my shared service team or my the IT team. Okay, so let them feel it. So that is fine, but the thumb rule says, or the best practice says, that any change you make in the request that has to be done by the requester because the requester is the owner of the request. Okay. Now, so here in this case, now you have two options. One is you can edit. Okay, it is not allowing you to edit, right? Uh, okay, I need to change some settings so which will allow you to edit. So if you click here, check. So at this moment, it is not allow you to edit anything, but actually I forgot to maintain some particular settings for this level, this to be revised level. So in next change request, we will see that. But you will able to definitely you will able to change the data and then you can continue. Okay, so you have two options. One is you can change it and you can continue it, or you can withdraw it. Okay, at this moment what I'm going to do, I'm going to just resubmit, just simply resubmit. Okay, then again it goes to the verifier. So that means the same cycle is continuing. So approval reject, it comes to the requester, and then requester again submit, it goes to the verifier. Okay. In the meantime, quickly I will change that configuration. Hmm, Change request status to be revised. Here we go. So what I am doing, this is the status of the change request. So in the status of the change request, which is for to be revised, earlier it was no processing, no processing. That's what it was not allowing me to process anything. So from there, I'm just maintaining them as a execution of changes. That means it will allow me to change any certain data. Okay. Now it will be okay. So now go there. Now refresh. Okay. Now I'm going to reject again because I want to show you the resubmit one. Reject. Why? Just to show you resubmit one. Reject again. Okay. So again, come back to the to be revised. So now again, continue. Now I want to make some change. So let's see. Now you can see, you can change. So now I will change the material group. Sample material group. Okay. And then resubmit. So the reason this request was rejected, so now we have changed that material group and then resubmit again. So resubmit means it goes to the verifier again. Okay. Now again we will have two options, approve and reject. These are all. Now in the meantime, if I feel that okay, I want to see how many steps I have traveled so far. So I can go to the workflow log. So in the workflow log, I can see how many activities I have done so far. So you can see these are all activities has been performed. First is like we approved it, then a requester submit, then verifier approved. Then second one, approver reject it back to the requester again. Then requester just simply resubmit. Then it went to the verifier, then verifier reject. Then again it back to the requester, then requester again change the material group and resubmit. And now the ready state. Ready state means it moved to the verifier and verifier yet to take any further action on this. So this is the person, this is the user, SAP user, which is the user ID. So this person is going to be responsible for this action. Okay. So let's click here. So now I'm going to approve this. So then it will continue to the approver. Again, we can see the workflow log. Now you can see that this step is after resubmit, it has been approved. And now the next step. So as I mentioned that I have only one user, so I have a very limited option. But in a real-time scenario, it should not be like that. There will be different persons here. Okay. So wait a minute. Again, I lost the remote desktop connection. I think the network is fluctuating. Okay, it has come. So now let me continue. And then, okay, approval. Now I'm giving the approval. And this is the final step. This is the final step here. And then the final check approved. Now you can ask me one question that how many steps usually one should have? So it is purely depends on organization to organization. We can't say this. So some organization they having three steps, some they have four, five, six, whatever. It is based on their internal business structure. Okay. So now from here, I received the permanent material number. Okay. Permanent material number. And now I can go to the material transaction and see whether my data has been successfully created or not. Wait a minute, let me rejoin because the connection is fluctuating a lot. Okay, now I think it will be good. Okay, so now so this is the material number, and so go to transaction MM03. So MM03 is for material display. So here basic data 1 to classification, material, create material for test. Okay, and this is the material number. So this is the description and this is the material number. And also we can see that we have unit of measure, we have material group, etc. Coordinator, are you there? I think something problem with the remote desktop because the remote desktop is reconnecting again and again. Initially, I thought yes, it was a network issue from my side for a few minutes, but now my network connection is stable. But the remote desktop is reconnecting again and again. So can you please check from your end? Okay. So this is the description and material. Similarly, we can see the classification data. No, it's an issue with remote desktop. Wait a minute, let me connect with coordinators. Okay, so just check with coordinator. He ensured that the remote desktop uh, internet connection is stable. Okay, so hope so. Things will be good. Okay, now you can see here the classification data. So the classification data, you can see that, oh, again, the same problem. Okay, the classification data, you can see this is the classification information, and then we have the okay. So this is the classification information, and then we have this characteristics. So this is the two characteristics information which we have maintained. Okay. So this is the way we can create uh, any master data. Let's say material master data. Now let me create one more scenario. So this time we will do little different. Obviously the same change request type I'm going to use. Base unit of measure. Sorry, base unit of measure. I can also go for advanced search. And this is the one. Material type. So these are all different material types we have. I always use the sample one. Okay. And then industry sector. And then so this is another material group. Then create material for test 2. Okay. Okay, with this detail, let's submit. Okay. Now this time, what we will do, so that the moment you submit, it goes to the verifier. Now this verifier, now I'm going to my change request. Okay. Now here also you can see from my change request, you can see this is the temporary material number. Okay. Temporary material number. And now, and here you can see, now I'm going to reject it. Okay. So now, let's say, just test rejection. Okay. Now let me reject. So what happened? Now it come to the requester level in order to resubmit and withdraw. Now this example we are going to see how we can withdraw one request. Okay. So to be revised, and now click here, and now withdraw. So do you really want to withdraw? Yes. Continue. Again, during the withdraw, you have to give the justification. Until and unless you provide this, it will not allow you to continue. So create a note and specify the reason for withdrawing the change request. So this is a mandatory stuff. So here, just withdraw. Okay, and continue. So withdraw. So withdraw means what is going to happen. That means and for which case or for what kind of scenario the request can be withdrawn. So let's say for an example, still workflow is currently being processed. Final check rejected. Okay. So now in the first question which comes in mind that when one can withdraw the request. So let's say for an example you have created or you have requested something, but thereafter you identify that that request was not correct or that request was not necessary. So in that case, what you need to do, you can withdraw it. So withdraw means what is going to happen that the record which was present in the staging table or in the physical table, from everywhere the data will be rolled back. Okay, the rate data will be rolled back completely. So then it will be final check rejected. So both are final check. So if I talk about these two scenarios, the two change request which we have created just now, that is 1312 and 1313. The difference is 1312 having the final check approved. That means the end result we have with the valid material number. But if you see the this one 1313, we don't have any valid number. Rather, we have a temporary number. Okay, and until and unless we have the valid material number, that is not going to considered in the real time business. Okay, so that is the difference. Now the thing is, we need to understand how this entire workflow has been designed at the back end. So first thing what we need to understand, that is in MDG IMG process modeling, first is the change request. So what I did, if I talk about here, that ZZ mat01. So this change request I have created. So this is for create material, and main entity type is material. Workflow template is this one. Okay. Then entity type. So this is the material and configuration ID. Okay. And the business activity as usual. Like what we have in MAT01, the same thing I copied here. Okay. Then this particular change request type. So already I saved. Then I maintain this as a part of reason. However, this is optional, but I still maintain this as a part of reason. Then I came to under the process model, we have workflow. And this workflow, the first thing what I did, that is define the change request steps. So define the change request steps here. ZMAT01. So these are all different steps. So now you can ask me that how you define these steps, means what is the logic behind this and how you maintain this. See, the logic is I know that I have a three steps. I'm going to create these three steps. Okay. Yes, I can add it later on one more step or two more steps. That is a different story. But this is the three steps I have. Now, for these three steps, the basic few things I need to design. What is that? First is requester, which will be my one step. Another step will be verifier, and another step will be approver. So here you can see zero, zero. Zero is nothing but my requester step. Okay, where requester will request the uh, change change request. Then we have, let me untake this. Then we have verifier and then we have approver. So these three steps are done. Then there are few more. What are those few more? Any workflow, there will be something called start and end. So if 00 is a start, if requester is a start, there should be an end. And end is nothing but I defined as a step number 99, which is an end step, where ultimately the final result or final product will be ready. Then apart from that, we have something called activation. So we need one more step for activation. Then we need one more step for revise, because we need to reject. We have approve and reject. So if reject, then it will go back to the requester. Then you can say, okay, you already have the requester step. Why you need the revise? No, I don't want to create that confusion. Rather, I take another step, which is going to be my revise step. So basically the revision decision will be taken care this step, and then it will go to the requester. So that's the reason I just break it into two parts, just for easy to maintain. And then I have rollback. So these are all very minimum steps I I have maintained. Okay. Then I went to the configure rule-based workflow. So here in the rule-based workflow, the moment you click here, so now the first thing is, what is rule-based workflow? Rule-based workflow is the advanced workflow, which is combination of workflow and business rule. Okay. In normal SAP workflow, we know, which is trigger with the transaction SWDD, right? Which is a standard SAP workflow. But that is not the advanced one. But this one is the advanced workflow. Now, uh, you need to provide the change request type, because all the workflow captured based on a certain change request type. So here the change request type is ZZ Mat01. Continue. Now, you will come to this BRF, the business rule framework screen, where first three folders, BRF plus application, trigger function, and rule sets. These first three folders are related to the BRF plus. Okay, BRF plus means, just if I talk about briefly, it's like a kind of a technique where you can create a different business rules. We will come to that part particularly in the next chapter. So that's what I'm not talking about this much at this moment. So then the last two items, which is CR type related service and the decision tables. The last two items are related to the workflow. Now I'm going to the decision table. Okay. Now, wait a minute. Okay. So now go to single value decision table. Okay. So we have the decision table. Now, there under the decision table, we have three type of decision table. One is the single value decision table, another one is the user agent decision table, and then we have the non-user agent decision table. So single value decision table is like, in this particular decision table, we uh, we design, or rather we jot down all the steps here. So basically, it's an end-to-end uh, 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 the business flow we define here. Okay. Next is the user agent decision table. User agent decision table. Okay. User agent decision table is something uh, here. Basically, we define the user driven actions, whatever the user driven actions we have. And the third thing is non-user agent decision table, which is related to capture all the background jobs or background actions rather. Okay, so background activity we capture through this non-user agent decision table. So basically three type of decision tables we have. So in the single value decision table, now if we come, so here we have a lot of different columns, but not necessarily all the columns are required. So if I talk about the first column, so the first column is the change request previous steps. So why change request previous step is important? Because we should know the previous action, the present action, and the future actions. So these three things we need to understand. Then only we can move further in this business flow. So here previous steps, previous action, which is also necessary. Now coming to the change request priority, honestly speaking, change request priority is very important, but change request priority, we will not deal with this decision table. We have a different way to deal with that. Okay, because every project, they will be concerned with the priority. Because look, uh, why you have to understand why business is creating change request. Ultimately, the goal is they want to create some material, they want to create some vendor, they want to create some customer, etc. Right? So when they want to create or change something, some master data, definitely business wants them to be completed within a specific period of time. Otherwise, there is no point to create them or to update them. So everything has to be done within a proper, priority within a proper period of time. Fine. Now, so that from that point, priority is very important. So that's what you can see that every project deal with some SLA, right? It is not only with MDG project, even non-MDG project also having certain SLA. So that's what SLA factor is very important here as well. That how much ticket we are uh, creating, how much like requesting, how much ticket we are approving, and how whether it will be approving or whether the process is going to complete within the proper SLA. Okay, but we will take it in a different way rather than the decision table. So we have a complete case study for that. Then change equates reason. This is not at all necessary nowadays. You can completely ignore it. CR rejection reason, not at all necessary. Now CR parent step. This is important for parallel workflow, not for the single workflow, because as I mentioned that we are now dealing with a single workflow, not parallel workflow. Okay, so that's what it is not necessary at this moment. So now parallel agent group, this is also important, but for parallel workflow, not for the single. Now condition alias is important. Condition alias is defined like what is the sequence. Every activity will go through a proper sequence, so that sequence is very important to maintain. Okay, and then new change request step. So like what is the new change request step we have, and then the status, of the uh, change request. Like ultimately, how I will know or how one should know that what is the status. or where exactly this change is standing. So that is completely through the change request status. Otherwise, how I will come to know that my request is at the verifier level or at the approval level or at the revise level? How I will come to know? Okay. So now the first thing. So first thing is that 00, which is nothing but the requester. So basically, what happens that the moment requester submit, then only the workflow start. Workflow does not start the moment you open the change request. No, opening the change request is not a workflow starting point. The moment you submit everything and fill all the data and submit the change request, that is the trigger point of the change, the workflow. So once the workflow trigger, what happens? This is the first step, and it goes to the verifier. I'm talking about my scenario. Obviously, this is something which has been jotted down, which is our scenario. Uh, it can differ to the project to project, but the soul will remain same. The process will remain the way it has been defined here. The steps it will remain. The concept will remain same. I mean to say that. Okay. So the verifier, and you maintain the status, that is Y1. So how you can maintain this status? So you can obviously create the status, whatever the status you want, under the process modeling, under the change request edit status. So here I have created some custom status Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4 like this. So Y1 is nothing but I have maintained to be validated by verifier. Y2 is to be approved by approver. Y3 is to be activated. Y4 is to be revised, and Y5 is rollback. Okay, this is the four item I have taken. And execution of changes means if my change request stand on this status, make sure that I can change the data. But the moment I mention that no processing, that means you are not allowed to change any of the information. Okay. So that's what for activation and rollback, we are not allowing to change anything. So now, next. So then once the change request move to the verifier, then verifier will have two options. One is approve and reject. So first we listed all the approve, and then we list the rejection one. So approve means, so this is the second step, and then once the verifier approve, it will go to the approver. Okay, and approver again we will have a respective status for that. Then approver will have, then again approve, then it will go for the activation. This is the third step. Okay, so if everything goes smooth, this is the activation step, and then the status will be to be activated. Now this is the approval scenarios. Now coming to the rejection scenarios. So rejection scenario says, so verifier, so if verifier reject, then it will be revise. Okay, so that's what I have taken as separate step called revise. Then again approver also can be rejected. So then again it will be stand to the revised stage, which is the fifth number stage. Then first coming to the revise. Then once you come to the revise step, you will have two options. One is resubmit, another one is withdraw. So if you resubmit, then again the same cycle will continue. Like it will go to the verifier, then approver, then activation, etc., etc. So that's what, instead of taking again the same step, I just mentioned one, which is condition alias one, step number one. So that means the same cycle will continue. And this is the change request status. Then if it is withdraw, then it is a rollback. Okay, which is a new step, rollback. Now coming to the rollback. So once the rollback activity complete, so the process completed and it is final check rejected. So rollback means you completely roll back the data from the system, whether from a staging table or physical areas, etc. Okay. And this activation, which we have here in the third number line, or third number step rather. So activation will have two phases. One is activation successful, another one is activation failed or unsuccessful, whatever you call. So if activation is successful, then the process is complete, which is 99 step. Now, this is very interesting. Both are 99, both are completion, but one is successful completion, another one is unsuccessful completion, okay, which is rollback. Now, activation failed. If it is activation failed, then what happened? Then the it means in my case, I just maintained that it will go back to the verifier. Okay, so the verifier will again, approve or reject whatever it is. Now the question is why the activation will fail. There can be many situations. One is, let's say your connection got breaked in between. That is can be possible. Secondly, you have a network issue during the workflow process. So that is one thing. Third thing is you have some condition violated in the validations. So that is also can be a possibility. So there can be a multiple possibilities for activation failed. Okay. So this is the, so you can understand that in the single value decision table, we basically uh, jot down the complete procedures here, starting from requester to verifier, then approver, and then the complete step. Now coming to the user agent decision table. So user agent decision table means we already talked about, like this is a purely user driven activity. Whatever the user driven activity we have, that has been jotted down here. So now coming to this, so first of all, condition alias. Now how I get this condition alias? Of course, from this single value decision table. So single value decision table, whatever the condition alias we have, so that condition alias we are calling here. So first thing is we need to understand uh, among these condition alias, what are the condition alias are user driven activity? Because there are a lot of activities which are not user driven activity. For an example, rollback. Rollback, one cannot do anything. It is a background stuff, right? Similarly, the completion activation procedure. Nothing we can do, nothing one user can do. This is activation is something which is a background activity, right? So likewise, we have to identify what are those activities are user driven activity. Like for an example, condition alias 1 and 2, like verifier and approver. Now verifier and approver, why I'm taking this as a user driven activity? Because verifier has to provide necessary approval. Whether it is approve or reject, that is a different story. But a verifier and approver has to manually trigger that. Then only it will continue for the next level. Otherwise not. That's what we will consider this condition 1 and 2, which is verifier and approver stage. That is a user agent decision table activity. Okay, so you can see that condition 1 and 2. Now user agent group number, what is the meaning of this user agent group number? Now by that time you came to know that we have a different type of users, like so requesters, we have some approvers. In approvers also we have something called verifier, something called approvers, etc. And all the people, once we bring them under one umbrella, that is nothing but the user agent group. So we define here the group number 1. Okay. Now you can ask me whether I don't have any other group number. Yes, you will have. That particular differences you can see particularly in parallel workflow, where you have a different teams which are maintaining your request parallelly at the same time. Okay, so but not here, because this is the single processing. So single processing, we will have only one umbrella, and everybody whether it is a requester, whether verifier, whether approver will come under the same umbrella. Okay. Then steps type. Step type for what? Step type for the user actions. Now, when we are saying step type 2 for agent type user, and this is the user ID. Now you can ask me whether we can give always the user. No, user is not the correct way to define. Rather, we will define the role, but role we have in this chapter. So we will come to the discussion probably next week about the role. So that's what I'm not talking about the role at this moment. So that's what I'm whatever the example I have taken, I'm just showing you through user. Next week I will modify the same example with role. Okay, because user see the thing is today, let's say some user in the organization, tomorrow they can leave the organization, so we cannot define directly the user ID in the workflow. Then again I need to come to here and change it. So keep in mind, it is not recommended to again and again change your workflow. Yes, once in a while it is like your business decided to add some new steps or add some new criteria, then you have nothing to do to change. But it is not like that every day you come and change in your workflow, because anything you change in the workflow, remember, it will impact your entire process, entire framework. So you have to be very careful about that. Okay. So now, so here in the user agent value, I have given the user ID. Now coming to the step type, why I have taken the step type 2? Why not the other values? Now let me go back to MDG IMG. Now workflow, under workflow, we have defined change request step type and assign actions. So step type 2, approve change request. Now what are those actions are relevant to this? Approve and reject. So that means as I have provided this step type, that's what when the change request reach to the verifier level or when the change request reach to the approval level, I was supposed to see these two actions, approve and reject. Okay, so that's the reason. Now coming to the next one, that is condition alias 4 and 5. Why 4 and 5? Come to the single value decision table. So 4 and 5 is basically for the verifier and approver rejections. Okay, and it goes back to the revised step. So now go to the user agent decision table 4. The step type has been taken 4 as well. And then special user or super user, the user agent type. What does it mean? That means this is nothing but the rejection scenario. So the moment you reject, so the agent type which we use, that is the super user or special user, and that basically indicating the initiator. So that's what you can see, the agent value is a init. Init means initiator. That's what I was telling. Like the thumb rule says, or the best practice says, that whenever you reject, it should go back to the requester only or initiator only who is requested this. Okay. Yes, you can obviously send it to verifier or somebody else. That is not a problem. But the best practice says initiator or the requester. Okay, who initiate this request, because requester is the owner of the request. Now let's see the step type 4. What is the meaning of this step type 4? So step type 4 is a revised change request, and the action which was maintained, that was resubmit and withdraw. And because of that reason, the moment we revise, always we have seen these two options, that is resubmit and withdraw. So either we can resubmit it or we can withdraw it. Okay. So every options which was appearing on the change request that has been configured at some point. Now coming to the non-user agent decision table. So non-user agent decision table is uh, mm, that condition alias 368. Why 368? Because 368 are those activities which are not required in user intervention. Those are like activation, rollback, and the completion of the workflow process. So definitely these are all activity we don't need any user intervention. So that will be completed automatically with the background process. Okay. Okay. So then you can obviously save and activate all the process, and then the overall catalog you can save and activate, and your process will be ready for use. So this way you can continue. Okay. Now similarly, apart from create scenario, we have also the scenarios like change material and mark for deletion. Now for material, we don't have any block unblock. Normally block unblock available for supplier and customer. Okay. For material, it's mark for deletion. Now change and mark for deletion, how it works. Okay. So let's continue. But before continue, what we will do, whatever the material we have created here, we will continue with that same material. Okay. So what we will do now, material governance, change material, provide the material number. In change or update scenario, we must give the respective material number. Okay. And then the change request type. So the change request type which we have maintained for this is ZZ-MAT02. Same way, the way ZZ-MAT01 has been maintained, the same way has been configured. Now let me edit. Okay. The moment we edit, you can see that the change request is now ready. And let's say I'm changing the material group. Okay. And let's say add one more classification. One more classification I will add. So then good with characteristics. Okay, just select this. Okay, now go to the characteristics. Okay, that means this class, no, this is the characteristics of the first one. I highlighted this and then, okay, it does not have any characteristics then. Then let's select some other class which will have some characteristics. Okay, and now go to the characteristics. All characteristics are appearing together. Let me specify this. Oh, I'm getting confused. There are a lot of characteristics. Definitely, this is not for one class, but I'm selecting why it is not. Uh, anyway, leave it. So I'm also getting confused. Like for I have already there was a one class already. I have selected two more classes. Now I was expecting that the respective characteristics will come accordingly. But instead of that, all the characteristics were appearing in the single screen. So now how I will differentiate? So anyway, uh, continue. Now submit. Okay, verifier. More or less same way the flow is happening. Now go to my change request. Okay. Now here I can see that the material number is already created, and now it is in the process of verifier. Now continue. And one more thing I would like to show you, like workflow log. Workflow log, you can see this is the work item ID. We call it as a work item ID. Okay. The and initially what you see, this is nothing but the foreground step, so where you have the approve, reject these details. Also, if you want to see the background steps, that also you can see here. Okay, so background, lot of different type of activities which is happening, like agent determinations, then read the inputs, whatever you have entered, and then accordingly process them. Okay, so there are a lot of activities which is also happening at the back end. So that we can see. Now, let me show you one more thing, like work item ID. Let me write it down, this work item ID number 9898. Okay, then go to the transaction SWIA and provide this SWIA, nothing but this transaction is for work item processing. Okay, then this is the work item number I have given, date time more or less, today time. So now you can see the status is ready. So why I have to come here? Being a developer, what is the use of this transaction? The use of this transaction is, this transaction will give you a complete picture of the background. Okay, what is happening with this request? Now go to the workflow log and go to further navigations, and then here you can see this is the process. Still you can see the last cube is in the ready state. It is not complete blue, rather it is white. That means still it is in the process. And you can see this icon, the agent icon, which is showing like your request is at some point where the agent actions are waiting. Okay, and also you can navigate this. So this is the step where we are standing at this moment. Go to the container, and also you can see in the container the list of information. So right now my step number is 93. My step type is 2. SAP user is the someone who is processing. And then this is the information. Okay, so that means I have the complete information about my step type, and everything. Okay, so this is the way I can easily identify. Now, one more interesting thing is how you can assign this workflow to somebody else. Like at this moment, it is with someone with SAP user, right? With SAP user. Now I want to send it to somebody else, because this request is very common in MDG. Like someone has requested this, and it goes to Mr. A, but Mr. A is on vacation. So it has to send it to Mr. B. So in that case, how we will do that? So the easy way to deal with this is, go there, make sure the status should be ready state, not error, not anything else. Then you can see this administrator forward. And then let's say MDG user. Okay, and refresh. Now refresh this. Now go to the workflow log. See, MDG user. That means it now move it to MDG user. Okay, but MDG user I don't have. So I have some limitation which I already told. So I will again bring back to the SAP user. You cannot choose yourself as an agent. Wait a minute. No, it is for second time because I was should not be the case. Number is same. Now for second time it is not allowing me to choose an agent. So let me trigger this. See, now I don't have because the request gone to somebody else. So because of that reason, I don't have any option like approve, reject, etc. Okay, but this is quite strange. It is not allowing me again to get it back, the request. Let me see whether I can edit somewhere here. Creator name, it is coming as a SAP user. That's fine.
Hi, Aditya.
Yeah,
I
tell me.
think you cannot. I think you cannot forward this work item yourself, but through the one function model you can do it. There is a
Is
function
it?
model.
But
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Through that function
That is.
model you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are forwarded into self-user, so it's not.
Correct.
It will not allow.
That's not allowed. Correct. Normally we do what we do like to somebody else, but
Yes.
for self we never do or hardly we do. Anyway, yeah, you are right actually. Anyway, so now let me show you one more way, but this is not the recommended way to do. So you can quickly for testing purpose, obviously, not for real time use. So let's say for an example, you are trying to test some validations or something, and for that you need to create the workflow multiple times to check something. So every time it's very tedious activity because here I have only the three steps. You may have four, five, six steps. So it's not possible that every time you trigger everything at the same time and then go through all the steps, approvals. So rather, what you can do, you can call SWO1, which is the business object T code. Here you need to provide the object that is bus 2250. So bus 2250 is the default business object which is present for the MDG process, and then go for test and then provide the change request number, which is 1315. Okay, 1315, and you can see the details about the change request, like not only the change request, you even have the details about the UI, what kind of UI you are using, what kind of status you are using. Okay, and obviously the details about that. Then you have a different methods. So those methods are very important. Let's say if you want to roll back, it will roll back. If you want to activate, it will activate. If you want to just process, then it will go to the next step. Okay, so this way, so let's say I want to activate directly. So just go to the activate, execute. Okay, so you can see there is no activation error or something. So now I can, okay, so I can see final check approve. So this is the way you can forcefully approve it or activate it. But this is not the recommend process to do when you are doing the things in a real time process. Rather, you can use it for certain testing. Let's say you're trying to test like the moment you submit something, it goes to the verifier and there is a certain validations which is running or not. Just you want to check or you want to maintain some certain logic, but you don't want to continue with the rest of the steps. Rather, you need some shortcut way to close it. So this is the way you can do that. Okay. So this is the change procedure. Now again for change procedure, uh, go to workflow, configure rule-based workflow, ZZ mat02, and again same sort of details which has been maintained here in the single value decision table. Now you can ask me one thing, that is whether for create and change we will have the same workflow. It purely depends on your customer, what they are looking for. Normally, yes, they don't make much differences, but yes, there can be a difference, like one more step will be there or one more less step can be there. So it completely depends on your customer. Okay. So then you have the decision table, user agent decision table, and non-user agent decision table. I maintain the same process just for yeah, easy understanding. Okay. So now coming to the next one. The next one is uh, mark for deletion. So go to the mark for deletion. Now, first of all, mark for deletion means what? Whether I'm going to delete this data? No, not at all. Keep in mind, we are not going to delete any of the record from the system. Rather, we just mark them. Mark for deletion, mark for blocking the data. That means this data is no more used in the active business process. Okay. So now you can ask me why. There can be different reasons, particularly the business reasons. Like let's say the material group is no more exist, or rather the plant is no more. Or there can be many different reasons, business reasons. So now, if you ask me whether it is used frequently, not frequently, but yes, use quite some time in the process. So now here ZZ Mat06. Now one more thing just for understanding. So who is going to create this request? Basically the end users. Now who is going to approve this request? Basically the shared service team or the IT business team. They are going to approve them. Okay. Now click on edit. Now here the screen is not like what we have seen in create or change scenario. No, it's not like that. Rather, it's a little different. Like it is talking about whether you have a deletion flag at the client level, yes or no. By default, it is saying no, but I have to do yes. So the moment I click tick here, it will be automatically yes. That means I want to mark this particular material as a deletion flag. Okay, and the rest of the details will be there, but it will not allow you to change any details because you're just marking this as a deletion flag. Okay, so you are not going to change anything, any of the data. So again, submit. So again, the same way it will come like approve or reject. Again, the same question which will appear whether we will have the same step or less, more. It depends. Again, your customer. So verifier. Okay. One more thing I want to show you. That is when you see the AC AC38. Let's say USMD data model, and go to, so this is and material material check table. So this is the staging table. Okay, this is the staging table. Now what is my this is my material number 5587. See, 5587. Now 5587, I have two entries. What does that mean? So that means one entry says 1, another entry says 0. That means it says that this material, once upon a time, it was activated. That's what it is 1. And now it gone to certain changes or blocking or mark for deletion, whatever it is, certain process, MDG process, and still it is in the process. That's what it is 0 indicating. Okay, so that's the reason 1 and 0. But when you are creating for the first time, when it will be as a dollar sign, it will be only 0. That means for the first time you are creating, so there will be no 1. Anyway, so coming to this approve. So to be approved by approver. Now sometimes what happens, one more important point, that one question which will come in front of you, that is, you know what, I have submit my workflow or I have approved one or two levels, but I can't see my workflow to the next level. Then how you will identify this? Okay, so in that case, as I just mentioned, you need to go to the workflow log. uh, Here, so let's say approve, and now next is in the ready state. So this work item is the work item which is the next one. So let's take this work item number 1729914. Take this work item number. Uh, Go to SWIA, enter the number. Straight away go to, first of all, you can check the overall level, you can check, that is one thing. Overall backend level, you can check what is the problem. But the best way here, but the best way to identify is navigate this, go down. This is the final process. Go to the container and see the step, the what exactly the item you have. So let's say this one, 94.2 or something. Here you can identify, let's say you have some item step number called 98, for an example. Then you come back to your design, go to your design. Decision table, and now you need to see whether you have anything called 90, 98, for an example, or 96. 96 you have, by the way, 98 for an example. Then you can identify, okay, so basically you are comparing your design with your container details, what you have right now in your plate. So then you can understand, okay, I have this right now in my plate, which is not defined in my design. Because of that reason, it is not moving further. Or it can be some connection problem or something else. Okay. So this way you can easily identify, rather than going here, there. Okay. Easily you can identify what is the problem. Because these are all, in a, whoever is in MDG project, you can ask them. These are all very frequent activity which comes almost every day from the customer, from the end users, I mean. Okay, and this is the same sort of a design I maintain. So nothing more. Okay, so this way we can maintain the material activities, create, change, mark for deletion. So today I will stop here. In the next session, for same sort of a create, change, block, unblock, mark for deletion, I will show for customer and supplier. Okay, and finance as well. So this way we can do it. Okay. So any questions so far, whatever we discussed today? Now what I will do, I will take a backup, or rather I will provide a dump about this data. Okay, uh, I can export this to Excel, and I can provide that, and you can create your own CR type and you can utilize them, or you can build your own steps in order to maintain that. Okay, so if I quickly go back to the agenda, today what we have learned. So basically today we have seen develop rule-based workflow, where to deal with that, we understand the change request, how change request proceed, because before today, whatever we discussed, it was before the submission. But today we have seen the world which is after the submission, post submission. So then we also talked about the step types. We talked about the actions. We talked about different approval procedures through rule-based workflow. Okay. Today I concentrate myself on material, and next class I will continue with the some other domain. Okay. But more or less same story will continue. The story won't change much. And then we will continue with the role concept with MDG. Okay. So that will complete this particular chapter, which is a single processing. So next chapter basically, which is quite complicated chapter, and this chapter will have lot of things. This chapter will be basically talking about the validations and derivation, which contains the MDG BRA plus activity along with MDG above body. And in this chapter, we will have the activity which defined into two part. One part is the service body, which is talking about the email notification, rule context preparation, parallel processing, and dynamic agent selection. And the another part is the rule body, which is talking about the single entity validation and cross entity derivation. So each and every topic we will have a prior hands-on like what we have today, and we will see like how we can deal with that. Okay, so anyway, so that is the next chapter. Let's not talk about at this moment. So let's concentrate one by one. So any questions so far regarding this chapter or regarding whatever we discussed so far? Okay, fine. So most of the documents, some detailed documents, in fact, has been already maintained in the drive. So you can go through it. Document related to the workflow, document related to the BRA plus. Okay, so already maintained that. So you can go through it, and please let me know your questions in the next session so we can discuss about this. Okay, fine. So if nobody having any question, then I will close the session for today. Okay.